Okay. Um, Last time we implemented some memory for when an item is picked up. So we created a utility for placing a shootable in any avatar's hand, probably more than a shootable, any object. And the way we did this was we added something to the member state. So if we look at types, we have member state here, and we added an optional left and right, which would contain the entity ID of the thing that you're holding. And this was initialized, and um, when you join a space, you're given a copy of every member's state, and that helps you move that entity into their right hand or left hand. A bit that's missing from here is that if it's not a shootable, you actually need a little bit more information to hold it correctly. You kind of need the position rotation. All that's available in the message, but this would have to be extended. But I kind of had another thought, which is we need to work on other transient items. And these are items that are temporarily moved. For example, when you pick up a pistol or any object and you release it, it changes position, but you kind of only want it there temporarily because you're in the process of an experience, and you don't want to necessarily disturb that experience for the next people coming into the room unless you're in edit mode. So now I'm not talking about edit mode, I'm talking about display mode. And I considered maybe populating this alternate set of component information into the database, and all of it would be loaded up, and the session components would override a base set of components so that new people coming into the space, they see where it is now. But then we'd also have to have a way of deleting them at the right time. And so if we store them into the GenServer, there's already a good mechanism for deleting them, because when the GenServer disappears, all that temporary data goes away. And so we can just kind of treat this as transient data that's stored in that GenServer that's downloaded to the client as necessary. And we already have a pattern for this for agents. So if you look at space server in the init function, init here, we populate an agents map, name of all these different agents in their position. And we could also have something for grabbed. This could be like something like entity ID and then member ID, who's holding it left and right. And we could also have released. These are things that we've moved. And perhaps collected. These are things that we've picked up and you can't see anymore. Perhaps who collected it. And just other state. For example, what happens if you have some ammunition, and so there's a quality of having some state within objects. For example, it could be used as an ID and some kind of percentage. So we have these additional maps that can hold this kind of data. So let's start with a grabbed one. Probably have to undo some of that work that we did in the last session, but what we can do is we can listen to the grabbed message inside space server, and I believe we have a handle event that does that. Handle cast event member entered. handle cast for member entered. We'll do some handle event stuff to help broadcast this out. Agent spawned, agent hit, agent directed, member left, and a catch-all to handle this event. Handle cast member connected. Alright, so we can probably do this for something grabbed. Member entered. Okay, we can do it here. Handle cast. It's an event, and the type of event is entity grabbed. This is the rest of the event, and the PID, that's the tuple, and we get the previous state. So we want to return a new state, which includes the thing that was grabbed. So we can say state equal map put into state, and the key is grabbed, and that itself is a map. So new grabbed is going to be map put into state grabbed. And what do we want to put in here? We want to put in the entity that was grabbed. So entity grabbed, what does that look like? Let's bring in the types. Entity grabbed has all this stuff. It has the member ID, the entity ID, the hand, pause rod. Okay. So we want everything except the entity ID, but we want the entity ID out here. So the key will be event payload entity ID, and the value will be the event payload. But we don't want the entity ID repeated on there, so we can do map.delete from this payload. Which will be, delete from this map. The key will be entity ID, which would be member ID, hand, all that kind of stuff. So that would put grabbed into the state. And let's see, then we return, we simply return handle event, get the tuple and the new state. Okay, so that's an entity grab. And do we have a way of checking the summary? This will give back the entire state. So let's do a test of this and see if it's now stored in there. So starting our server, open up Chrome, So this is our space ID. So space ID is equal to this string and space server summary. Tell me about the space. And yeah, grabbed is not set. And I would now like to. Oh, what happened? We couldn't log in just now. What happened? Now we're going to grab that guy. And give me the summary again. If you look over here, grabbed now has quite a bit of information. Very good. And I think if we grab it again, it would just, so release. So release needs to wipe that piece of data, but right now it's still going to be in there because we didn't unset it. Let's just see if we grab it in a different way. Actually, it might actually, okay. So 166, we ask for this again. What do we get here? Different values. Okay, looks pretty good. Let's clear that data if we get a release, entity released. So we can go entity grabbed, and we'll do a handle. Let's just copy and paste this. Let's say entity released, and we got to find the entity ID from the payload. So entity ID will be event payload, then entity ID. Let's just check what the type looks like. So the types. When we get an entity released, what does that look like? Member ID, entity ID, and you still get some hand and position information to know where it was released. I do think we need all of this information actually. So this is going to look quite similar. It has all of the same information. So the state grabbed, the new grabbed. Oh, okay, let's pull out the entity ID anyway. So payload does have entity ID, and we want to clear it out of that. So new grabbed will be map.delete anything from state grabbed and the value is entity ID here. So we're deleting it out of there. That's the new grabbed. And the new released will be this. So we're looking at map put into state released, the entity ID, and we'll remove that payload, and then map put there, and we'll also put this into map put state into released, new released. But come to mention it, when you grab it, you should remove it out of the released as well. So new grabbed is this, and we want to delete it if it is there from released. So then we're going to get the entity ID from event payload entity ID. This can just be entity ID. So new grabbed is that, and new released is map.delete from state released the entity ID. That's new released. And so we'll put that into the state. So state map put into the state released is new released. Alright, so these should be updating each other. So if I clear this and restart the server, let's get my space ID. There's no process yet. Let's start up our server. Okay, once again, summary. Okay, now we've got a summary. There's nothing grabbed and nothing released. Alright, I'm going to hold on to this, move around a bit, and if I ask for a summary now, I've got nothing released but something in grabbed. I now release it, move around, ask for another summary. I've got something in released, nothing in grabbed. And for the release, do I really need to know who released it? So I've got an entity ID, I've got an entity position rotation, I've got the hand and the hand position rotation. I don't really need that. I don't even need the member. I just need the entity position rotation. That's all I need for released. Yeah, I don't need all that information. So for entity grabbed, we're doing that. Entity released, I can actually just say put this, and I don't need to delete this. I just need to include the pause rot. So let's just say put this in there, which is, we'll call it get. Yeah, go ahead and call it entity pause rot. Yeah, entity pause rot. It's not that much data, and it's the event payload entity pause rot. That gives you all the information about where to place that thing. So when we grab something, we're just deleting it from that if we do have that. Okay. So that'll help you with holding on to something and releasing it. And one more thing is that in snapshot, currently if we're getting something like entity grabbed and entity release, we've been processing it. So we've been saying it was transformed when you grab it. And so now I'm saying it's not transformed when you grab it. It's not transformed when you release it. We're not considering that as actually editing the scene. What we're doing is putting that temporary information into the GenServer. And now we can kind of pull in that information when we're loading it. So we're getting this, we're doing this in Scene Manager, I believe. We have something that's doing find or create avatar, I think, create avatar. here's what we're doing. We're creating the avatars here, and over here we are loading up everything they found from that payload, and we'll just not do this. So all of this was loading the left and right hand, and instead we need to have some other information come to us about the current state. So maybe it's about the space. So where does this come from? About members is a message that's generated inside space channel when somebody joins. So after a join, we're tracking present state. We send them a message about the members. We send them an information about the agents. So after members are created, I think we can send them an information about the space. So is this actually adequate if we just give them a summary? No, this is not going to translate to JSON. I think we want to give them a special message for agents collected, grabbed, all that kind of stuff, which is friendly. So let's give this one about space. So let's make a instead of about agents, we can say about space. So let's go to space server. Let's do it about. Give me the space ID. About this space. This should be called state, I think, because you're just giving back the state. We should call this state. Summary. Give this to be state. I don't know that anybody's using it. Anybody else using it? Summary. Telemetry. I don't think anybody's using it. Okay. Going back to about. GenServer call via tuple space ID and about. Now we need to add a call. So handle call about state to reply. Here's the response and the new state. So what is this response? Response is a map of maps. So we want to say that grabbed is state grabbed. Maybe could I just give you a list of keys I want from a map? Let's see, elixir get subset of map. take. Map take from state, and I want, is this a sigil of words? I want agents, I want collected, I want grabbed, I want released, and I want used. Compile. And space ID exists, so give me server and about space ID. Space server. Okay. Let's redo this. Grab. Okay. Doesn't work. How about summary? Give me like summary. Let's call that R. How about state? Okay. Map take from R, and let's just say agents. Okay, this needs to be map. Okay, agents collected. And what if this is, what is W? As a sigil agents collected. What is this? Okay, I don't want that. I want Adam. Elixir sigil list of atoms. Word list, let's see. That's regular expressions. This is strings. This is characters. This is word list. Small w with an A at the end. Oh. It gives you a list of atoms. Is it? Compile and try about. Again, there we go. Entity grabbed. Grabbed it. Which hand they grabbed it with? Great. And if we release it, click that again, and about released. Entity pause run. Very good. Okay, so let's go into the space server. Yes, we are giving back this called about. So then in the channel, space channel, let's give this back. We'll just push into the socket about space. Let's be becomes about space server about socket assigns space ID. Now we need to do something with about space. So how are we handling about agents? About agents. Signal Hub is an incoming special event. We'll handle about space. We'll have agents on this as well. We'll also have what? Grabbed, which will be an entity ID, which will be a string, and each one of these will contain all kinds of stuff, right? So it'll be the entity pos_rot, which will be a kind of pos_rot types pos_rot, and it will have the and what is the type? I need to see the type. So for entity grabbed, we'll get, yes, member. Actually, we can just copy this, right? You get everything except this entity ID here. And this will be types pos_rot and types pos_rot. Alright. And for entity released, we'll get entity ID here. And this will just be the entity pos_rot, which is a types pos_rot. Anything else? Whoops. This should go into the same spot here. Go. Okay. So grabbed and released are the ones we're focusing on now. We get that about space defined in there. And what were we saying about agents? It's handled in agent manager for space channel. Yeah, it's going to push this data out and it's listened to by agent manager. And we should listen to it in when we're constructing who's holding what, which previously we did in the scene manager in about members, which comes down as a message. So hopefully this thing is created, so by the time we parse who's grabbed what, that avatar hand will exist. So let's listen to the message, first of all. Channel listeners. Yeah, new leader. Sure. set this up to signal hub incoming on about space. And we're just going to subscribe to this once. And all about the space. Okay, about space. And this is going to have a key of grabbed, which is the one we're listening to. So actually we could say done creating avatar and then just merge the signal with that signal. See, how have we done that in the past when we combine two signals together? Let's do it. Look at all signal hub. Should all be in kind of pipes. Let's look at these. A lot of filtering. Take until. Okay. About combine latest. Here we go. So this actually combines the signals together. Combine latest. So I wanna wait for another observable. Concat. Subscribe after first completes. Cat this and that. Cat subscribe. concat. So if this message happens and you're releasing it immediately, oh, concat, just make sure that this happens after. So if you're getting all of the messages after, you don't even get them. If they're intertwined, you get them afterwards. I don't want that. I want this one. I want this message to be fired after it's done. So I think I want merge just puts them together. I think I want combine latest, which is will not get any message from the first one until you also get a message from the second one, and then just ignore that second part. Sequence race, start with 1, start with no, zip. Okay, zip is interesting. So you won't get any from sequence 1 until 1A, 2, no, that's not really important. I'm not trying to zip the two values together. I think combine latest is the closest thing I want. I want you to wait for the second message before you emit the first message. Take while, skip until So you don't get any until you get a sample here. So when this signal comes in, you get the previous one there. Sample. Oh, RxJS sample. A function that returns an observable that emits the result of sampling the values emitted by the source observable. Yeah, that's what I want. Okay, so scene manager. And so I can create a new observable here. Let's just call it done creating avatars equal new observable It's not an observable, it's a new subject. So then we just push a new value in there. It's fine. Let's define this up ahead. So we can say that on this, and then pipe, we want to sample there's a sample time. Periodically looks at the source and emits whichever most recently emitted to the previous sample. Oh, this could be used for movement, perhaps. Anyway, sample what? Sample from done creating avatar. Is that how you use it? We're going to import this, right? RxJS operators sample. Okay, and where's this sample? Okay, about space. Let me just console log this, console log about space, about space. Okay, didn't get it. So we're script driving here. We're saying done creating avatars. Done creating avatars, new subject. Let's also subscribe to done creating avatars. Done creating avatars. Subscribe. Dot console log. Dot done creating avatars. Got done creating. Okay. This happened. So maybe you need to do it the other way. Maybe you need to say, when this happens, I want to sample the other thing. What we're sampling is signal hub incoming on about space. And then subscribe to that. It doesn't seem right. Something. So console.log got something. I'm subscribing in both directions here. Got true. Okay. Okay, so this sampled the true, but I want the about space sample. So this samples this when I get an about space. I want to sample about space when I get to sample this. So I think this is correct. If I just don't do anything about this and I say about space, does it come out? About space. Yeah, I get everything I want about it. This thing is released. Pipe sample. Emits the most recently emitted value from the source whenever another observable notifier emits. Okay. I think, yeah, it should work. Except that this might emit before we even get this. Yeah. So anyway, let's not worry about optimizing this yet. Let's just process this. So screw this for a moment. About space, and what are the things we want to process about it? We want to process the who grabbed what. Grabbed. And we want the object for const. You're going to get the entity ID and payload of object entries about space grabbed. So see if you can find the entity ID first. So the mesh is this entity ID. So let the entity equal this scene get mesh by ID, and it's the entity ID. And if there's an entity, we could do something. And we got to see if there's a hand to receive it. So we're going to try to find the hand. Const hand is equal to avatar find avatar hand, and this thing takes the member ID, which will be in the payload member ID, and the hand, which will be in payload hand, and the scene, which will be this scene. And if there's a hand, then we can try to do something. First, we're going to unset the position rotation of the mesh. So unset that for the entity. Then I think we're going to unparent it as well, right? So entity parent will be null. Then we're going to entity position equals the payload entity pos rot pos. So this will be the copy from, and this will just be let's do Babylon vector 3 from array. And the rotation will be entity rotation quaternion equal Babylon. And then we should parent it, right? So that the entity parent equal the hand. So if we do that for every entity, it should be assigned to the right place based on the memory. Cannot convert undefined null to subject from orchestrator line 52. Okay, something scene manager. Okay, entries about space grabbed. Console log about space. Was there grabbed? Yes, there is grabbed. There's the empty map. Convert undefined or null to an object. That should just give nothing, right? That should, I mean, it should just give you a object entries of the, what does that give you? Yeah. And so if you do const of that, wait, about space, where's the about space? Oh wait, we haven't joined yet, about space. Here. So if we comment this now, do we still get the error? Yes. Okay, where is this? For, is it of object entries? So is it this? For anything, because this is an empty list. For const AB of object entries of nothing, like that. Should it fail? Const blah 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 of. What's wrong with this? For anything that was grabbed. Tell me about it. Cannot convert undefined variable to an object. Okay, so maybe you need to check if object keys about space grab, which is an object, cannot be applied to types string. Oh, length. Object strings dot length. Still about space grab. What is going on? What is about space? About space. Console.log about space is this about space. Stringify. JSON.stringify. Oh, wait. No. It is not that. That is no, because it's in another payload. Where is it? Not even compiling here anymore. What's going on here? Find spawn. Oh, I got all kinds of error on this, don't I? Okay, I think I know what's going on here. What's the first error up here? Find the spawn point does not exist on the scene manager. Okay, this thing is all kinds of screwed up. And okay, now you know what's going on. Okay, get rid of this. For that. Get rid of that. There we go. And also about space. And we're not given the correct payload here because So go back to the signal hub. We're expecting that about space is just this, but agents had a key on here. Now if we go back to the way we're emitting it from space channel, we actually emitted it with an about space here, but actually we should have just done this. It doesn't need another key around it. That should give us the right thing. And there you go. No error. And what is my... Okay, this didn't throw an error. Let's just see if it places something in here. What's the summary? Okay, we have nothing there. We need to do the released. But let's say we're holding on to it. And if we were to reload, does it put it back in our hands? Well, it certainly disappeared. It's in the grabbed. We have who grabbed it. This should have placed it somewhere. It might be parented to us in a weird, unusual way. In fact, if we open up Orchestrator, I think it probably is attached to us because I saw it move. So we have our free cam as a right hand, and we do have a gun parent to us, but where is it? If you look at this position, moved it pretty far away here. Try that. I think the when you snap it into place, when we click on it, let's see, inline, what does it do? Inline, when you're clicking on it, emit grabbed. What kind of... So we probably don't want this because this is where... This is probably incorrect. We selected it, but that's not where we're grabbing it from. We're grabbing it much closer to here. So what would this do if I... yeah, it's parented to where it was when you clicked it. So I would say if it's a shootable, you want to do it. Let's see. Scene manager. Entity position. Babylon JS tags, query matches query if the entity contains shootable. If that's true, or if it's not true, then we'll do this. Okay, we parented it just down here. Yeah, we actually want to parent it to this way. Else. We want to parent it this way. We should move this into a class. This is confusing to reproduce all over the place. There. Yeah, and it's in our hand, but we didn't set the inline stuff, so it actually isn't shootable to us. I mean, which is a rare case. You're going to come in with a gun already, and if you can't shoot it, just release it. Oh, we can't release it either because we're not holding it. Okay. Yeah, that now we can shoot it. Okay. Yeah, it's really for other people to see it. So there's a slight bug there. But the case of the matter is, if I'm holding the gun, the GenServer knows that I'm holding the gun, and if another person comes in to look at the scene, as they render, they're going to get a copy of the about space. So if I look at that person, yep, they're holding the gun. And if they release it, okay, so now they're moving away. Oh, interesting. Where's my hand? That's interesting. My hand's over there. Okay, let's hold that gun again. And my hand's somewhere else. Okay, so there's some other bug here introduced. That's interesting. If it's released, okay, at least that went to the right spot, and I reload this page, I don't think it will persist here actually. Reload, yeah, it did it. There's no persistence here. If I grab, okay, that went to the right place, and I release, yeah, releasing seems to throw your hand some other place. So we should make a class for grabbing and releasing on any avatar. So let's make an improvement on that. Let's mention the bug releasing gun moves the hand on the inline 2D avatar. Should make a class handle grabbing and releasing objects. Okay, we can also refactor, remove left, right from member state, add release entity method, state handling, Okay, so we'll do those things next time.